Yo, we are only a handful of hours away from JJK 265 dropping, so be sure to join us in the Discord for that later tonight. But until then, I got a few more questions from you guys that we're going to go through, so spoilers beware. All right, so first up today, we got this from Keisha, and I hope I'm saying that right, but they say to check out the top comment below the TCB chapter. There's a really interesting theory pointing out more Buddhist correlations to the Shinjuku showdown. So let's check this out. All right, so I went to check this out, and we have this comment here from a refined gentleman who is talking about the correlations between Yuji's domain and his hand sign with the Shittigarbha from Buddhism. And Keisha, in case you didn't see it, I actually put out a video talking all about this connection when the chapter first came out, so I completely agree with this analysis, and I think it's a really cool parallel that Gege has drawn. However, there is one thing that this TCB comment touches on that I didn't cover in my video, and it's this idea of like saving Sukuna by him having to pass through these 6 different envoys from Buddhism. And this person gives a pretty cool breakdown of what those 6 envoys might be represented by in the manga. And I do think this is a really cool parallel, but I'm not putting too much stock into it. Next up, Dip wants to know if I think Gege was foreshadowing with Yuji being on the train in the season 1 opener, and absolutely, I think that was 100% intentional from Gege. He was being a little cheeky, letting us know that he had those plans even all the way back then. And Dip also wants to know if I can make anything out of that fish that is also swimming in the opening. Here is the fish in question, by the way, and a lot of people theorize that this symbolized Junpei back in season 1. It's an emperor angelfish. You guys can look into those and see if you can draw any conclusions. But interestingly, Riko Amanai also has like a little moment with one of these types of fishes when she's in the aquarium, and we all know what happened to her, so maybe not the best sign for Yuji. Next up, we got a bit of a longer one here from Callie, so y'all pause to read the whole thing, but they start by saying they want to apologize for their previous question and for overstepping boundaries, and let me just say, you're completely fine. No apologies necessary, no hard feelings whatsoever. I appreciate the sentiment, but you're totally cool. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten questions or comments, like coming at my opinions and wanting me to explain why I feel certain ways, so no sweat at all, man. But Callie goes on to say they wanted to get my thoughts on this moment where Sukuna tells Jogo, stand proud, and Jogo starts to cry, and he says, what is this? Like looking at his tears, and Sukuna says, don't ask me, I don't know. So my read on that moment is that Jogo is having an emotional moment. He just got recognized by Sukuna, someone who he views as truly strong. So he like is having this moment of like feeling pride in himself and, just feeling good about himself, being validated, right? And I think Sukuna doesn't understand that because one, Jogo is crying, which doesn't seem to be an emotion Sukuna is really familiar with, but two, Sukuna has never needed that outside validation from anyone. That's like his whole thing, right? He threw everything away in pursuit of his own desires. The only affirmation or validation he needs comes from within. So he just can't even fathom getting so emotional based on somebody else's approval. So that's how I always took that scene. Next up, we got this theory from Kashmir, who wanted me to give my thoughts on it. He says, if Sukuna does go back into Yuji's body, what if Megumi ends up activating the merger just in a quest to get power to try to defeat Yuji Sukuna now? And I don't personally see the story going this way, just because if Sukuna does get back in Yuji, we know that Yuji is a cage for Sukuna. He's a prison, right? So barring some weird circumstances where they make like another binding vow and Sukuna is allowed to use Yuji's body, which I don't see happening, I don't think they'll have to fight Yuji Sukuna in this at the end of this story. But who knows? If that did for some reason happen, I still don't know if I see Megumi activating the merger just to fight it, because they don't know like what that is. Like, I don't know if he would want to sacrifice all of these millions of people just for a chance to defeat Sukuna in that way. But I could see Megumi starting the merger. I just think it would come from other circumstances and not trying to defeat Yuji Sukuna. Next up, we got this question from Sam on why didn't Shoko heal Angel's arm? And the short answer is she's just not capable of it. We haven't seen any RCT user been able to heal someone else to that extent. And I believe Sukuna was the one that told us that RCT outputted on somebody else just loses so much of its efficiency, like maybe even half, 50%. I might be making that number up, but it's certainly worse. So while we do see people like Gojo or Sukuna able to regrow their own limbs, we haven't haven't ever seen anybody able to regrow someone else's limb. So Shoko just isn't capable of it. And finally, I got this question from Marcus, who asked, did Kinjaku set Sukuna up by making yuji? And honestly, I think so, at least to some degree. Now, we don't know exactly what Kinjaku and Sukuna's relationship was like, especially back in the Heian era, what their binding vow entailed. All we do know is that Kinjaku showed Sukuna how to become cursed objects, and that Sukuna was protecting Kinjaku from gojo. But there may be more, and there does seem to be more, as part of that binding vow that we're not fully aware of yet. It does seem like Sukuna is going to see through the whole merger plan, which I also imagine was part of the vow. So I do think Kinjaku kind of pulled one over on Sukuna a little bit by making Yuji a prison for Sukuna, because I think Kinjaku wanted to make sure he could keep Sukuna under wraps and kind of think of it like a ticking time bomb that he wanted to make sure he was in control of when it got set off. And if Yuji was like a normal vessel that Sukuna could have just taken over and run rampant whenever he wanted, then that is, excuse me, I'm joking, then that would have been something he couldn't control, right? So in a way, I do think he set Sukuna up by making Yuji a prison. Like, I don't think Sukuna would have been privy to that part of Kinjaku's plan. But beyond that type of setup, I don't know if he would have set him up even more. Like, and there's another shoe to drop where Kinjaku is going to betray Sukuna or something like that. Maybe, for sure, because we still don't know what that binding vow entails. But the short version of this answer is that I think Sukuna wasn't aware of the fact that Yuji would be a prison back during whatever plans they would have made together. And actually, this page from chapter 257 really drives all of this home, because this entire intro sequence is them talking about Yuji and Sukuna being unaware of why Kinjaku did what he did. So he seemingly had no awareness of the fact that Kinjaku was going to have a child with the reincarnation of his twin brother and then produce Yuji. So Kinjaku was definitely pulling strings behind the scenes that no one else was aware of. Anyways, y'all, I think that's going to do it for this one. That rounds out the list of questions I got. And just disclaimer, this will be the last Q&A video I do before chapter 265 comes out, which is probably obvious since it comes out in a few hours, but I did just want to throw that out there. So in case you did have a question, you might want to just wait until after the chapter, just in case it gets answered, or, you know, whatever. And actually, on that note, with leaks in roughly about 3 hours, just a reminder to come join us in the Discord. You should be able to find a link in all the normal places, maybe in the comment section, depending on what platform you're on. But come join us over there for leaks tonight. It could be an all-time chapter figuring out what's going on with this domain. So come join us for the craziness there. And as always, I will be putting out my leaks video, of course, once they are fully all the way out and completed. So be on the lookout for that. But finally, y'all, thank you so much for watching.